All right, so let's just start off the day with fake news. So here's the thing. I just obviously there's no shortage of fake news, and if you are live streaming on YouTube or live streaming on Facebook right now, you probably know because you follow me on social media that I post an awful lot about the fake news that's out there. So last week we saw this story. I didn't talk about it because I wanted to look into it. And again, when you do this, as long as I've been doing it, you start to see patterns. And you start to see that if you have a certain type of a narrative, because everybody in the media and on the other side, they're so predictable that you kind of know that things are going to steer the opposite direction. So we got this story on Saturday about how this guy was just trying to get his pregnant wife or girlfriend or whatever to the hospital, wife, to deliver their baby, was arrested by evil, horrible, fascist ICE agents. Now, of course, ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So these ICE agents arrested guys just trying to get his wife to the hospital, deliver their baby. These evil, horrible people, and they're throwing him out of the country and everything else. Now, a reasonable, sane person will stop and go, well, if ICE is detaining the guy, there's a reason for that. And then the thoughtful, reasonable people out there will go, I find it difficult to believe that ICE would detain somebody even if he was an illegal immigrant based solely on that grounds while trying to get to the hospital for the birth of his child. Okay. So there becomes kind of this, why are you all outraged about it? Clearly, this guy's got an issue, and clearly this guy is in the country illegally. But the nature in which ICE took him down kind of indicates that there might be something else. Now, that's what reasonable people will look at and say, okay, there's something up here. Kind of like when ICE showed up at that house, kicked in that door, started taking people into custody. Then all of a sudden, there's a bunch of people are protesting outside. Remember that? Producer Tim, what was that, in San Francisco or something like that? And we ended up finding out that all of those people protesting ICE and calling ICE agents a bunch of names like fascists and everything else, because, again, people don't have dictionaries nowadays. We ended up finding out that they were breaking up a child sex trafficking ring. So all of a sudden, those people who were there started disappearing. Oh, okay. Well, I'm just going to put my sign down and run away now. Okay, they were trafficking children, which I got news for you is a common thing that happens with illegal immigration in this country. There's trafficking. People complaining about the issue that's happening at the border of child separation and everything else, in spite of the fact that it's been happening for literally 4 administrations. Okay, 4 administrations this has been happening. But it's Donald Trump's the only one that's doing it, right? You actually have members of Congress who are saying that. All of those people are lying to you or just flat out stupid, okay? I'll let you decide which one. They're liars or they're dumb, okay? It's not ignorant because the information has been freely available for an extended period of time. If anybody's repeating the lie that this didn't happen under any previous administration, it only happens under the Trump administration, they're just stupid or a liar, all right? There is no ignorant argument anymore. So now you have all of these people out there, and what do you have ICE saying? Well, yeah, the majority of them are being brought here without their parents. So the adults that are accompanying these people are not their parents. So if the adults accompanying these people are not their parents, we've got a couple of probabilities here. They're relatives who are just trying to get the kids maybe to their parents, or they're people who should not have these kids. And that could be because of trafficking, or maybe the kids are not actually kids. We've run into a lot of that where people try to say that they're minors and it turns out that they're fully grown adults and they're gang members and that sort of thing. All of these keep happening at the border, okay? The vast majority of these circumstances are not just people with their kids who are being separated, okay? That's just the reality. We've gone over this a million times. But people still continue to peddle the lie. Why do they peddle the lie? Because, one, they're stupid and they're liars. It's that simple. Those are the two options. They're just dumb and they have believed everything that they have been told without bothering to verify the facts, or they're lying to you because they don't really care what happens to these kids as long as it damages the president. And so now a couple of Hollywood celebrities have admitted as much. On Saturday, dozens of media outlets reported that federal Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents arrested an illegal alien who was taking his wife to the hospital to deliver their baby. Now, this was the headlines for this. Let's look at this. Washington Post. ICE arrested a man driving his pregnant wife to give birth. She drove herself to the hospital. Oh, my God. Sacramento Bee. They were on their way to the hospital to have a baby when ICE took them away. CBS News. ICE detains man driving pregnant wife to hospital to deliver baby. Time Magazine. ICE detained ICE agents detained man driving his pregnant wife to the hospital. Slate. ICE officers arrest man who is driving pregnant wife to hospital for C-section. Oh my gosh. She could bleed to death, Tim. New York Magazine. ICE arrests husband who was taking wife to give birth at hospital. Newsweek. ICE agents, part of Trump crackdown, detain husband driving pregnant wife to deliver baby. So Newsweek is like, this is Trump's fault. He's just trying to separate families, not even at the border anymore, but in the delivery room. Donald Trump wants to be in the delivery room to separate families because he hates immigrants so much, right? Yeah, what they conveniently left out is this guy is he's wanted for murder. I know it's Monday, and I know that a lot of you probably didn't expect me to say that. For those of you who don't follow the story over the weekend. Yeah, he's wanted for murder. All of a sudden, the narrative goes, phew, it's out the window, right? So let me ask you a couple of questions here. By the way, this is going to come up throughout the program today. When you have the Washington Post, Sacramento Bee, CBS News, Time, Slate, New York Magazine, Newsweek, NBC News, which is the only one that actually reported the truth, if you can believe that, and the countless members of verified journalists and news anchors on social media who spread this, okay, and attacked the president, attacked ICE agents, attacked ICE as an organization and a bureaucracy. All of these people who did that without telling you that this guy was actually wanted for murder and had a warrant for his arrest on homicide charges in Mexico. So he murdered somebody allegedly in Mexico and fled to the United States to escape. And Mexico asked us to get the guy and bring him home. We did. We did. So let me ask you, all of those media outlets that reported this story were demonizing ICE and the president for a policy that the president didn't implement, by the way. Are those people doing a disservice to the American people? Are they intentionally misinforming you by giving disinformation? And if the media is doing that, does that not qualify as fake news? That they are steering you in a direction that is not accurate in order to peddle a political narrative and attack this administration. And if they are intentionally misleading you, the public, in order to just steer a political narrative and demonize this administration falsely, does that or does that not qualify as being somewhat enemy-esque of the American people? If you have a news media that is intentionally steering the American people into hating somebody and hating an organization based on falsehoods, does that not qualify on some level as being enemy-like behavior to the American people? I'm just asking you, on some level, does that qualify? And again, this is going to come up routinely throughout the program today. Now, am I calling all of the news media the enemy of the American people? Of course I'm not, just like the president never said that, which is another thing that they spread in their stupid coordinated editorials, which you still have politicians and everything else, including the mayor, out there saying stupid stuff about that. The president never said all news media was the enemy of the American people. Never said it, but he did say fake news is. And if you are intentionally spreading fake news in order to demonize the president of the United States and to turn people against them, which has in fact led to violence and people being hurt, people being killed, that sort of thing, could that qualify as behavior that would be considered, at least in some capacity, an enemy-esque of the American people? And if so, wouldn't that make the president's comments true? 574-25-95-95-3. That is 2595-953. We're live streaming on Facebook and YouTube today. So facebook.com/Casey the host and youtube.com/Casey the host. We have more coming up on News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
Casey Hendrickson, News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
Your breaking news and weather.
So we're just talking about Saturday's media narrative, and Saturday's media narrative was, hey, evil ICE agents acting under the orders of Fuhrer Trump have apprehended an illegal immigrant who was on the way to the hospital for his child to be born. And instead of saying murder suspect was detained by ICE agents on the way to hospital to watch his child be born, which reads very different to the average person out there when you read it. Remember, most people only read the headline And if they get beyond the headline up to the first 3 paragraphs of a story, and when you do not tell people that this person is a murder suspect with an outstanding warrant who may have murdered somebody in Mexico and fled to the United States, if you don't tell people that up front, they're automatically going to assume that we've got immigration agents out there who are refusing to let this guy even watch his child be born before deporting him. That's a very different thing. We're talking about a murder suspect. And you might have an issue with how they detain them, and that's fine if you want a murder suspect to go hang out at a hospital to watch their kid be born. And that's okay, fine. We can debate that. But when you intentionally mislead in the headlines and the stories to paint a narrative that is not true, that is leading a lot of people to go, that's kind of that's enemy-like behavior, if you ask me. 574-25-95-95-3. JJ, welcome to the program. Good afternoon.
Hey, Casey, thanks for taking my call. First time I've actually called your show, but I've listened many times, and I really enjoy your narratives, and definitely your support of the Second Amendment is par for the course. But anyway, I got a unique perspective because I did not grow up here in Indiana. I did live in California, and I lived in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I lived on the border for 14 years, and I can tell you this type of apprehension and separation has been going on since Reagan was in office.
Correct.
I live down there, and I tell everybody here, I am Hispanic, but I am American first. And the people that are abusing the border situation, the ones coming across, the ones that Trump was talking about he's the first one to ever have the guts to come out and say this stuff.
Sure.
You talk about all the other politicians, are they going to do something about the border? They never brought it up because they always felt like it would be racially handled. And you see how this narrative is now with this ICE reporting. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I worked in a newspaper years back and as a part-time sports reporter, and I used to see some abuse going on with these people that just, and I say these people, I'm talking about the fake news reporters who are actually using that as a political slant. And what's going on with this is vilifying a group, the ICE agents and the Border Patrol agents, who are absolutely doing this country an amazing favor and an amazing job. They don't get enough thanks and enough attention to it. It's really terrible what they did with this situation with the pregnant wife going to the hospital. Hey, man, if this guy committed murder, Mexico's asking us to go get him. What are we supposed to do? Just let him go and do whatever he wants to do in this country?
Yeah. Look, there's a couple of people, even after it came out, just let the kid be born. And okay, if you want to debate about the timing and the way that he was apprehended, that's one thing. Okay. But don't mislead in the stories.
Right.
And that's what the press, dozens, not one or two, okay, dozens of media outlets spread this false narrative. And then beyond that, hundreds of verified journalists and news anchors on social media continue to spread this falsehood in order to demonize the current administration and an entire law enforcement entity, while telling us you can't demonize the FBI when the FBI has people in it who abuse their authority, because how dare you go against law enforcement? It's just one of the most ridiculous things. Well, I'm from Las Vegas. I don't know if you're aware, but so I'm familiar with border stuff, even though I'm not right on the border like you were in Texas. I'm familiar with border stuff far more than people in the Midwest generally are. And this type of thing is common.
Yeah, they don't know. The people here, most people
they think they know because of Goshen, but they don't have any idea.
And it really bothers me when you see these pseudo celebrities, whether all the people out in these gated communities in California that were talking about all of the same thing here with the ICE agents and the separating the families and all that. They don't live in the same neighborhoods that are being enormously affected by what happens with illegal immigration. And they don't understand that when guys like this one that was taking his pregnant wife to the hospital, coming across our border, they are subject to doing other stuff. Not to mention all the kids, even the ones that come on with their best intentions. You got their kids taking desk space in public schools that are paid for by American taxpayers.
Yeah.
And this is part of the problem, because those people whose American rights are being violated because their kids have to share desk space with a teacher who's overwhelmed in a classroom that has mostly kids that don't even speak English. Mm-hmm. Sitting there, and what happens to the quality of that education? But nobody wants to talk about that.
Well, and let's not forget too. When I was younger, they would take these ESL students, is what they called them, English as a second language students. They would not put them in the general classroom. They would have a separate classroom where they would, bring them along, teach them English, but also be able to teach them other stuff in their native tongue. And then it became racist to do that. So now we had to put them in the same classroom as everybody else. So now the teacher has to teach to the lowest common denominator instead of the majority of the class. And that slows everybody down. Yep. And this is the type of thing that is extremely damaging to the quality of education that we have, especially in border towns and in the Southwest. And people are just ignoring it.
Yep. Yeah. And hopefully it doesn't come up here. But anyway, I appreciate it. And you have a great show. And, I'm glad you brought this up today because we need to talk about it more.
Amen. All right, man. Appreciate it. Thank you much.
Yeah.
Take care. 574-25-95-95-3. That is 2595-953. You can also send a text message to 45364. Please put MNC at the beginning of that message. The woman who recently just took over ICE, which was, again, another woman in power position that had been completely ignored by the media and certainly not highlighted. When she was taking her position, there were people who were asking her about all of this stuff. And, she pointed out, she's like, look, I've been doing this for a very long time. And I can tell you firsthand that this goes back to 4 administrations that have been apprehending and separating families this way. 4 different administrations. Now, we had a bunch of fake news that was happening when this was first getting going about this was just something that had never happened before. It only happened with President Trump and nobody else did this. And then the people were sharing all of these photos, and all of these photos were of people that children who have been separated, put in cages and things like that under the last administration. Now, and I've always been very careful to point out that this was not because Obama hated children. This was not because Obama was doing what he could to damage these immigrants. It had nothing to do with that, but it had to do with them saying, look, the Ninth Circuit coming in and saying, you can't detain children with their parents. You can't do that. We don't send children to jail with mom and dad in this country, and we're not going to do it with immigrants either. And so then they had to go ahead and find another solution, and they didn't have the facilities built at the time to do that. So, but this is certainly not something that is brand new, but people keep acting like it is, and they're still out there saying that it has never happened until this administration, which of course has been totally debunked and is an absolute lie. MNC News time is 3:31. Time to check out Masters Heating and Air Conditioning online at mastersheatcool.com. Masters gets there faster.
This is Michiana's breaking news and weather station. MNC.